Hi, guys. It's Sven from Badass Counseling. So we created the Badass Counseling group on Facebook, and it grew to well over 45,000 members. And we kept getting asked by folks for a support group, a growth group that's more intimate, gives more access to me, Sven, if possible. So the Badass Counseling team got together, and they created Community Plus. For a monthly fee that isn't cheap, you get direct access to me 2 times a month where you can submit your questions directly. Monthly drawings for a small group counseling session with me. Monthly drawings for one-on-one counseling sessions with me. Priority Pass access to go to the front of the waiting list for ongoing counseling with me. Priority Pass access to be considered to be counseled by me on the Badass Counseling Show podcast. Direct access to my top 2 selling video courses, Healing the Soul and Unleashing Your Greatness. Interviews with people who've had success in their soul journey, some well-known and some everyday folks like you and me. And a fantastic opportunity to meet and get to know other men and women who take their healing and growth seriously and who do the work. And a social community feed where folks share their challenges, their struggles, and their triumph. And so much more. So go now to badasscounseling.com. Click on the Community Plus sign-up page for premium content and direct access to me and to like-minded people who are committed to healing, growth, and creating a community of support and happiness.
From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Well, hello. It's great to have you here, everyone, joining in for a Badass Counseling Show Lightning Round episode, wherever you are checking in from, whether it is Nebraska or New Zealand or anywhere across Europe, whether the northern parts or the southern parts or any of the little bits. It is so nice to have you here joining us on the Badass Counseling Show Lightning Round. As you know, I am joined by my team. We try to do our best work to help you out through life's problems. I've got KC joining us over in the booth, and then I've got Rob the Rocket right next to me. Rob, what's the good word today?
We got all the bits here. In fact, here's a bit for you. You know, every extreme taker is an icon. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, because every sentence begins with I, and it's a con job.
Wow. You're not wrong. You are not wrong. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and jump in. Patty on TikTok says, how do you not just catastrophize bad things that happen and just try to redirect your thinking? Patty, you don't try to just redirect your thinking. That's the mistake. And I know you're thinking, what the fuck does that mean? If you're trying to redirect your thinking, you're working against yourself. Let me tell you why. Because your brain is trying to catastrophize. It naturally catastrophizes bad things, as you're saying. In other words, your impulse is to take something small that's going on and make a big thing out of it. That's your brain's natural instinct to do that. Because why? Because in the past, shit went wrong. A lot of bad shit happened in your life. And so you naturally assume either A, bad shit's going to happen, or you fear bad shit is going to happen. And so you're trying to redirect your brain to stop it from thinking that. But that doesn't solve the root of the problem. That solves the equation right now, but the root problem is still there. And so it's going to keep happening. The way you solve the root problem is by going back to where these things started. And where it started was bad shit was happening to you. Bad shit was being done to you. And until you drill down into those origins, like those movies like X-Men Origins and shit, going back to the origins, until you go to the origins, you're not solving the actual problem. So that means a deep dive exploration into where the fuck is this coming from? Like, what were the original sources of the war zone that I fucking grew up in? Or the extreme critical life that I was raised in? Or that I was taught to always be afraid? Where is all of this coming from? And this is what this is why I wrote my book. You can get it for fucking $20. Hell, you don't even have to buy the fucking book. Just use this podcast and all the episodes that are totally free, get a pad of paper and a fucking pen, and all the counseling that I do with people, and you'll start to learn the questions that I ask people. Use those questions. You don't have to spend a fucking penny. Use those questions and start asking them of yourself and dive deeper and deeper to find the origins of you believing that shit is going to get worse, of you believing that you should be afraid, of you believing that life is basically scary, that life is bad, that things are wrong about you and about your life. All right? All the questions are right there. Now, if you want the simple answer, you can get the book. It's $20 and it will step you through this process. But if you don't want to spend the money, just use the podcast and use my 2,000 fucking free videos on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, TikTok. But the bottom line is, until you go into that origin and find that origin source and begin to get that out of you, it's going to continue to drive the entire operating system because it's acting like a fucking virus. All right, next question. Melissa, this is a simple one. Melissa Van Wagner says, do you have audio versions of your books? Yes. And just so everyone knows, you're going to go to Audible and you're going to say, Sven doesn't have audio versions of his books. That's right, because I took them off Audible. My books, Badass Wisdom, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, my cheating book, they are not on Audible, okay? They're at badasscounseling.com. All of my audiobooks are at badasscounseling.com, okay? All right, next, what do we do? What do we got? Liz Martin asked the question, what's the penalty to just not being able to journal and go deep? How do you change your priority? I would be curious to know why you're not able to journal. Even if you can't go deep, why are you not able to journal? Are you able to journal about yesterday when you got cut off in traffic and it pissed you off? Are you able to journal about that? Are you able to journal about how your coworker was rude to you, last week? Are you able to journal about that? Because if you're able to journal about that, then you're able to journal and start there. Because you can go into that and start with those feelings. And if you can journal about yesterday or last week, then you can journal about, over the holidays when you had that event, last Christmas. And if you can journal about last Christmas, then you can journal about, last 4th of July, et cetera, working your way back. But is it that you can't or you don't want to? See, this is the real question. And a lot of people say, oh, I can't write, I can't journal, I can't sit still. And it's almost always, it's a pretext for I don't want to because I don't like how it feels. Well, that's a different question. But of course, none of us like how this feels. None of us likes bringing this up. But this is the price. The penalty is the shit never comes out of you. So it's like, well, I'm wanting a workaround. Well, there is no fucking workaround. You got to get the shit out of you. All right, next question. Amy Subia says, Sven, I was on your show a few years ago. My life's so different now. Thank you, truly. Well, you're welcome. That was an easy one. Okay. Lauren McMullen asks over on Facebook, why does traditional therapy steer us away from the issues within us that we go into counseling to heal? Well, first of all, just for clarification, not all traditional therapy does that, okay? Just for clarification, there are a lot of therapists out there who do steer you into it, okay? There's some at least. But to answer that question, on one hand, there are some who don't know how to deal with it. They don't know what to do in those deeper issues. They don't know how to get there. They don't know how to deal with it. There are some versions of therapy that don't believe that helps. For the ones that don't believe it helps, I don't really know what to say to that. To the ones who don't know how to get there, it's because they haven't done it on themselves. And this is why if you listen in on these lightning rounds, often you'll hear occasionally someone saying, Sven, I'm a therapist. Do you have any advice for me? Or I'm in my final year of medical school to be a psychiatrist. Do you have any advice for me? Or things like that. And I always say the same thing, or I always mention at least this thing, and that is heal yourself first. Not do that first before you go into therapy, but as you're in your own work on healing yourself. Why? Is it because you have to be healed in order to heal others? No, that's not necessarily true. You can be healing yourself while you're healing others. But by working on healing yourself, you learn the things that work. You learn the things that you believed in or believe in. My father always used to say, it's easy. And my dad was a clergyman, right? But if you ever talked to my dad, anybody who ever knew my dad in his 65 years of being a clergyman, that, if you ever ran into him on the street or even at church afterwards, you talk to him for more than 10 minutes and he will always come around to talking about, back then, Honda automobiles or just machinery. He was a farm kid at heart. He loved talking about machines, loved talking about his Hondas. Back in the 80s, there were 8 of us in our family, and I think we had 7 Hondas. He just loved them. He was like an evangelist for Hondas. Never mind he was a Lutheran pastor. He was an evangelist for Hondas. And what he would always tell us is, if you're going to sell something, you got to believe in the product. You got to know what the fuck you're talking about. Well, it's the same way with healing people. In all of my work, I only use tools that I believe in, that I have used on myself, so that I know how they work. So I'm telling therapists, and so back to your question, Lauren, why does traditional therapy still steer us away from issues within us that we go into counseling to heal? Because in a lot of cases, they don't know. They're reading it out of a book, and so they don't want to steer you into something that they don't know is going to work. And they maybe in some cases where they don't know what the fuck they're doing. All right? And so it's easier to just sort of coast. Now, I'm not saying this of all therapists, and I preface my answer by saying a lot of therapists do take you into it and do know what they're doing. And I believe in therapy. I do. And there are a lot of good therapists out there. But there are a lot of therapists who haven't done the work on themselves. And I've had a lot of psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, clients. All right. And so healing yourself means you learn the tools and you learn your own inner workings. And once you've done the work on yourself, once you've learned your own tricks and questions and so forth, you are better able to heal others. I'm able to heal people because I've learned this little trick or that little way to get through my own stuff, or what I was struggling with at this level and what got me through to that level. And I'm constantly learning from clients. I'm learning from you guys. I'm learning questions and so forth. Oh, I'm going to take that one into therapy tomorrow, and whatever. So that's why. All right, next question. Heather asked the question, any advice for flushing out feelings of fear from past traumas? Yeah, I mean, fear is really the biggest one, Heather. There is no bigger feeling, an emotional charge that gets attached to past memories. Fear is the whopper of all. It is the king of all feelings. It drives all of life. That and love, but fear is the real king. And so for flushing it out, you dig down to where it began. You dig down to those experiences and you allow yourself to feel it. And you write about what you're afraid of, what the scariest part was. And you know what's interesting? We had someone on the show. We were taping a counseling episode earlier tonight. And this is one of the little tricks that I've learned by working on myself. Okay, to the point I just made from working on myself. I was discussing with this client, we were talking about what would happen if, I don't know if it was they lost their job or what it was, and they feared failure. Sven, my ultimate fear is fear of failure. And we're getting into that. We're talking about fear of failure and fear of failure. And for me, it wasn't fear of failure in my own stuff. It was fear of something else, whatever it was. But then I asked this question. I said, yeah, but what's the fear after that? Then what? She said, well, then I'd restart. I'd start over. I said, no. There's a fear that happens after your greatest fear that is the real greatest fear. If you want to flush out your fears, go to the fear after your greatest fear. So if your greatest fear is the fear of the unknown, fear of being alone, fear of failure, fear of abandonment, ask yourself, but what's the fear that comes after that? That's your real greatest fear. And you're like, what the fuck does that mean, man? And what that means is after you fail, you fear what comes after that. You fear something happening. You fear the voice, or you fear the sentence, or you fear what people will think. You fear someone saying something. You fear what. So the question I ask people is, okay, let's say you failed. Let's just say this business venture that you're so jacked up and you really want to do with your life, but you're afraid you'll fail at it. If you were to fail, what is the one sentence you most fear anyone thinking about you or saying to you? What is that one sentence? In one sentence or less, what is it? And then that person will stumble around and they'll try 3 or 4 different sentences on for size. And I'll say, okay, which one of those is it? And we'll play with it. And we'll drill down a little further and we'll pin it down to one sentence. And then I'll ask the question, and who is the one person in your life, living or dead, most likely to say it? And they'll pin it down. They'll nail it. And I'll say, okay, that's the person who fucking owns you. That's the person. And those are the words that you most fear. It's not fear of failure. It's fear of that person's judgment. It's fear of that person's voice. That's your real fear. It's not failure. Failure is morally neutral. It's what happens after you fail. Okay, so do you see my point here? The way to disgorge fears from inside of you is to ask yourself, what's the second fear? What's the fear after my greatest fear? Because there's always something. It's what happens inside of me. What is the feeling that I would feel if this happened? Or what is the consequence if that happened? And then what would I feel? So it's even the third feeling after that great fear. That's how you begin to really, this is what it means to go deep, folks. And the thing is, you can be doing all this shit by yourself. You don't even need a fucking therapist. The better you get at your own fucking journaling, you can be doing all this shit by yourself. Kind of trippy, ain't it? All right. You got the power. I got the power. All right. Next question. All right.
Got one here.
All right. Go ahead, Rob, over on YouTube. What have you got?
Carrie asks, I feel I've had too much counseling to cope. I've been coping my whole life, but I want to heal, not cope. Any advice?
Yeah, it's exactly what I was just talking about. If you've got counseling to cope, and I'm just going to back this up, Carrie. For those of you who are not familiar with my show, if you are still coping, you are not healed. That's what Carrie's referencing here. If you are still coping, you're not healed. Coping means I've got the problem inside of me. I've got the pain. I've got the issue, and I'm trying to just survive another day. Healed means the pain, the issue, the disease is out of me. It is done. The wound has healed. There's nothing to cope with. Okay? And so if you're still trying to cope, folks, generally speaking, 99 times out of 100, it's because there's something deeper. As I just gave an example of in the case of the fears. All right? So, Carrie, in the case of whatever this is you're dealing with, I guarantee you there's something deeper, and I guarantee there is something you fear going into deeper. My first question would be, first of all, have you read the book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup? If you haven't, you probably want to, because it's going to take you down those steps, step by step by step, down the stairway, deeper into yourself, to the ugly shit you don't want to look at, okay? If you have read the book and done the journaling in the book, then I guarantee you there was something in that book that you avoided, that there's something you don't want to touch. I guarantee it. Because anytime we're still coping, if we've been doing the work, there's something we're avoiding. Now, let's assume you did it. Okay, let's assume you did all the work. Then I would simply ask you, what is the one area of your life that is the scariest to think about, talk about, or touch? That's exactly where you need to start digging. Right there. Or what is the one person you are still placating, or you're a sycophant to, or you're still hoping to get the approval of? Okay, start digging right there. Why? Because you're still not being your authentic self. You're still trying to get something from that person. That's an indicator of weakness inside of you. That's an indicator of a hole inside of you that you're trying to get this person to fill. All of these are indicators, pointers of where you need to be doing some digging inside of you. Does that make some sense, Carrie? Hope so. All right, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
You know, I've read so many self-help books, and I always get something good out of them. But when I dove into There's a Hole in My Love Cup, well, it changed me. I cannot recommend this book highly enough. My copy is very dog-eared and highlighted. Thanks, Sven, for writing it. I love There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and believe you will also. Order your copy at badasscounseling.com.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
All right, I've got a question here from Michelle Marie on TikTok. Hi, Michelle Marie. Her question is really lovely. She says, how do you heal the wounded masculine energy when you've never had a stable male figure in your life? And the answer is actually seems to be implied by the question, that the answer would seem to be, well, you would need a stable male figure in your life to provide an example, a model of masculine energy from which you could sort of draft, and you could use that as something to say, okay, I'm going to be this. However, the answer is counterintuitive to the question. And that is, you don't need a stable male figure in your life or a male figure at all in your life in order to learn masculine energy. And the reason for this is, within each of us is masculine and feminine and, in fact, neuter energy. None of either. Non-binary is the phrase nowadays, I guess. When we are our own authentic selves, we are flowing our authentic selves moment to moment. That doesn't require an example. There is not one example in this world presently of your authentic self. When you are being your authentic, original self, there simply is no one who is like you. You are like no other one. Even if you look at it on strictly a scientific level, I was listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I don't listen to very often. He's too smart for me. And he said, if you just look at the permutations of human DNA, there are 23 sequences of the 4 proteins of, and chromosomes and all this shit, or whatever the fucking numbers are. It's like trillion fucking whatever. That there will literally never be another one of you in basically the history of humanity, and there never has been another. So furthermore, that's just based on your fucking DNA, let alone your individual circumstances and sort of what is written on your soul to be. So there is no template for your dosage of how much masculine, feminine, neuter energy you got, what your calling is, who you're supposed to be. There are examples of what others are, but your goal is to be you. Thus, your goal ultimately, and I've told you guys this before, but I haven't said it enough. If you learn nothing else from me, if you take nothing else away, if you do nothing else in your lifetime, do this one thing. All you have to do is get out the non-you voices. Just do that one thing. Everything else will flow from there. There is nothing you have to find. There is nothing you have to do. There is nothing you have to seek. Nothing you need is outside of you. Everything is inside of you. All you have to get out of you is that which is not you. And how will you know that which is you and that which is not you? How it feels. You've been taught not to listen to what feels right and good to you. And that's the first thing you have to get out of you. The thing that says, don't trust you. Don't trust what feels right to you. But the more you trust that voice that says, what feels right to me and good to me is good. And get out all those other voices of expectations and shoulds and all the things that say you're bad, you're not worthy of love, you're not good enough. The more you work on getting those out, which is why I recommend journaling and writing letters you don't send, the more you get those voices out of you, the more your natural mix of masculine, feminine, and tree and dog and pony and lake and fire and breeze, all of that that's in you, it will naturally all begin to flow together into the authentic you. You just got to get out all the voices that ain't you, mother fucker. All right. Next question. Shannon Parmenter here on TikTok asks a lovely question. It's so scary to experience healthy love when you had 51 years of unhealthy. Why do we self-sabotage? Shannon, another great question. So many great questions today. Self-sabotage doesn't exist, Shannon. And I know you're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Self-sabotage doesn't exist. So if we take what I was just talking about on this notion of authentic self, Shannon, if your authentic self is self, authentic self never sabotages self. Your authentic self would never sabotage you. What's sabotaging you is all that crud that I was telling you. The only thing you have to do is get out all the crud that isn't you. That's what's sabotaging you. And you're like, oh, that's clever. Ooh, you're a fucking guru. La, la, la. That's just blah, blah. Right. But it's technically important. You're not sabotaging. And what you're really asking is, why do we do shit? You say it's so scary to experience healthy love when you had 51 years of unhealthy. What you're really asking is, why do we do unhealthy shit? Why do we choose unhealthy fucking bullshit? Because we're not choosing it. It's all those other voices inside of us saying, this is all you're worthy of. It's all those other voices inside of you that say, hold on to shitty. Hold on to shitty, because at least then you'll have something, because you're not worthy of love. But so if you get someone who even says, they can tolerate you, hold on to that, because that's the best you. But that's all those shitty voices inside of you. So when I say get the shitty voices out, then your authentic self, your real self, says, no, we don't self-sabotage. Authentic self never sabotages self. That makes sense, guys? All right. Next question. Jonathan Zolpa over on Facebook says, I go to counseling every week on Saturday and I feel like it's not doing shit. Jonathan, stop going to that one. I'm betting it's costing you money, even if it's just a copay. Stop. Find someone else. Seriously. At the very least, get out a pad of paper and a pen and start journaling. Get my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. Use that. It'll kick your ass, change your life if you bring the courage. And there are plenty of sites out there. There's Psychology Today. There's Good Therapy. There are plenty of sites for therapists in your area. But if it doesn't work, don't. And that means, and what's at the root of that, Jonathan, is your own voice is saying this isn't working. Start listening to your voice. That's the goal. That's one of the goals of great therapy and self-work, is just to start listening to your own voice more. Next question. Quinn Wynn. Oh, I like this one. Oh, now you're getting into my old wheelhouse here. Quinn says, is it normal to go through a faith crisis? I vacillate between believing in God and questioning my faith. How to get some certainty? I used to be a clergyman. I was a pastor off and on for 15 years. I have a former theologian, taught at the graduate level, one of the largest Lutheran seminary in the world. I have several books in the field of theology. First author to ever write to publish and delineate the spiritual but not religious movement in the world. You can go on Google right now, onto Wiki, pull up spiritual but not religious, and my name is right there on second or third paragraph, whatever. So you're kind of asking me a Sven question there, in my old life at least. Is it normal to go through a faith crisis? I vacillate between believing in God and questioning my faith. How to get some certainty. I believe it was the 2000s when Mother Teresa died, and the Vatican released her personal journals a few years later. And it was discovered in her personal journals that Mother fucking Teresa, kind of worked that in there. That was kind of clever. It was just low-hanging fruit. Motherfucking Teresa, it's almost sacrilege. It almost feels like it. But hey, I spent 2.5 years at a Catholic seminary, so I feel like I can do that. She had a faith crisis like 20 years. Motherfucking Teresa had a faith crisis, right? And you're like, wow. You know what one of my favorite biblical Christian Bible stories is? One of my all-time favorites on this exact point, Quinn. Now, you don't indicate what your religion is, so I'm just going to go with the Christian one, all right? It's the story, John the Baptist, who is known as the precursor. That is his title, right? The precursor. Well, what's the Latin of precursor? Pre means before, and cursor means to run. He's the one who runs before. Runs before who? Well, Jesus. He's the one that proclaims the way of the Lord, and Jesus is coming, everybody get excited, right? And he's the one who baptizes Jesus, and when he baptizes Jesus in the Jordan River, and what happens? When he baptized Jesus, hallelujah, praise the Lord, whatever. And then a short time later, he's in jail, and we know a short time after that, what happens? Well, King Herod, has a hard-on for this dancer named Salome. And he says, I'm drunk. Hey, you're a sexy dancer, young lady. I'll give you anything you want. Any part of my kingdom, what do you want? And Salome says, I don't know. And she goes to her mom, and her mom says, ask for the head of John the Baptist. And so Salome goes back and says, I want the head of John the Baptist, and I want it on a silver platter. And Herod says, oh, fuck. I like John. He's a good shit. So, Buddy made a promise, and evidently Herod's a man of his word. So they go and they cut off the head of John the Baptist. So there's that story. But when John was still in prison, some of his disciples come to him and say, some of Jesus' disciples, whatever, some of John's disciples come to him and say, hey, Jesus is in the area. And he says, go to Jesus and ask him. This is the best part. Go to Jesus and ask him if he really is the Son of God. All right, so this is an answer to your question here, Quinn. Quinn asked the question, is it normal to go through a faith crisis? I vacillate between believing in God and questioning my faith. How do I get some certainty? John the Baptist, now mind you, just like fucking a few weeks earlier, baptized fucking Jesus. The baptism of Jesus is the only time in the entire Christian Bible, and if we want to steal the Jewish Bible, in the entire Jewish Bible, where God the Father is present in his voice. This is my Son in whom I am well pleased. God the Holy Spirit in the form of a dove descending from heaven, and God the Son in the form of Jesus are all present. So John the Baptist is there, present, witnessing, listening, and sees God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and still a couple weeks later says, fuck, I don't know. Are you actually the Son of God? It's like, you fucking pussy. Fuck you. Fuck you. All the rest of us get dick for centuries, for millennia. You get God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and that's not good enough? Fuck you. Oh, and he's such a man of faith. I'm a voice crying out in the wilderness. No, you're a fucking pussy. You got all three and you're still questioning your faith? Fuck you. You're not a man of faith. Spare me the camel hair and fucking bullshit. Fuck you. All right. So, Quinn, you're saying, is it normal to go through a faith crisis? You think I answered your question? If not, I could pull up another one. Mother Teresa and John the Baptist? I don't know. I got one more for you. So Jesus, that guy, so it's Monday, Thursday, right? It's had the Last Supper. He doesn't know it's his Last Supper. Well, he probably does because he's Jesus, right? And he says to, Judas, what you must do quickly, right? And Judas leaves. And then he says, hey, let's go to the Garden of Gethsemane, right? Takes his fucking disciples, and then he just takes 3 of them. Then he goes further into the garden. And then he says, there's 3 disciples. You fuckers stay here. I got to go hang with God. Then he goes to God. He's praying to God, and he says, God, hey, if there's any way you can get somebody else to do this, just take this cup from me. I really don't want to do this death, scourging, crown of thorns shit. Please, do we have to do this? But I guess if I have to, okay, I will. I'm an obedient son and all that. What was that? Is there any way I can get out of this? That's a man not wanting to do his duty. That was a man questioning his faith. That was a man saying, do I have to? That was a little boy saying, I don't want to do the dishes, Ma. Do I really have to? That's him questioning his faith. Is this really necessary? Do I have to? I don't know if I believe in all this shit anymore. At least not. I'm scared. It's a derivative of faith crisis. So yeah, you got John the Baptist, you got Mother Teresa, and you got Jesus, all questioning, all with their issues. Is it normal? Yeah, it's fucking normal. But you got to understand one thing. If you are at a party, Quinn, let's say a cocktail party, all right? Let's say you're one of the good Christians who actually has cocktails, all right? You're at a cocktail party. You can see my bias. And you're having cocktails, and everybody's having a nice time. There's good music. There's a cellist over there, or maybe they're playing some classic rock, whatever. And, you're standing by the crudité and celery and, beet. And you bump into somebody and you're chatting and it's interesting and so forth. And you find the person interesting. You ask them a question. And you're like, yeah, but I thought, box mass in B, I thought, the second movement was blah, blah, blah. No, that doesn't, but I thought it was this. And you're asking them questions. Is asking a question about box mass in B, is that an indicator of interest or is that an indicator of disinterest? Questions are an indicator of interest. They are a stepping towards someone. We spend billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars in scientific research because we are asking questions. Questions are a desire to understand, to get closer to truth. You say, I vacillate between believing in God and questioning my faith. I grew up the son of a Lutheran pastor. 4 of my uncles were Lutheran pastors. One of my uncles was a missionary to Ecuador for 25 years with his family. My mother was a director of Christian education in some very large churches and taught at the graduate level and was a writer in scholarly journals in the field of theology, specifically early childhood education. They openly and aggressively advocated questioning of faith. Why? Because they believed that brings us closer to the divine, to a more authentic faith, to a stronger faith. You've heard me tell this story here on this show that my mother was teaching a women's class at a large suburban church, and Jackie Emerson came up to her afterwards on behalf of the other woman, and Jackie was one of our neighbors and the mother of one of my 2 best friends, and she said, Charlotte, we want a different teacher. We don't like you. Mom said, well, why? She said, because you make us think. True story. That is what the good Lord gave you a brain for. Because we have deep, hard questions that be answered, questions of faith. And the truth is, God gave us free will. If there is a God, God gave us free will. And you cannot choose God until you decide whether or not you even believe in God. Think about that. How do you get some certainty? By continuing to ask deeper questions. How do you get certainty? By believing that questions are good, and it is drawing you into the conversation, and by trusting that if there is a God, God can handle your fucking questions. It's going to be okay. We're just going to take 1 or 2 more questions here, folks. I'm going to call it. Okay. Kristen asked the question on TikTok. How do I keep the courage to leave my narcissistic partner? He makes me feel bad. Then I cave and I stay. Kristen, what's really blocking you, it's not about keeping the courage. Because if you're having to work that hard to keep the courage, it means that you've got something acting inside of you that's undermining your courage, which is fear and pain, sadness and anger, but that's even deeper. But the fear, that's what's blocking you, right? And the feeling bad. He makes me feel bad. No, first of all, that's saying you're passive. Just for the record, He doesn't make you feel bad. That's basically saying he has control over you. You are choosing to let him make you feel bad. You are not passive. So when he plays on your heartstrings, oh, I'm going to miss you so much. Oh, this hurts me what you're doing. You are choosing to let him make you feel bad. You are choosing that rather than, okay, rather than saying, you know what, to yourself, he's a big boy. He'll get over it. All right. But the bottom line is you fear hurting him. You feel something somewhere inside of you, you were taught at some point in your past that hurting another person, quote unquote, hurting him, and the mere fact that he keeps doing this says he's obviously fucking with you. He's playing with you. He doesn't want you. He wants what you provide to his life. And he's playing this little boy card like I'm helpless without mom or whatever. But at some point in your life, you were taught that if you do anything that might hurt someone else, you're a bad person. And so the fear is that you might hurt him. Right? And so until you go back into that origin source, you're not going to be able to do this. So it's not about keeping courage. It's about getting rid of the fear. It's getting rid of the original message that you were taught. And this is why belief systems are so important. This is why my whole work is about belief systems, the beliefs that you were taught to believe about yourself, and then the fears that those give birth to. Okay? And so the more you go into that and find those origins and give them words, name the beast, the less you'll be caving in. Furthermore, you also likely have some fear of not only hurting him, but the fear of being alone and how you will feel if you hurt him, and fear how you will feel if you are alone. All right, one more question. This one piggybacks on the last one. Kayla asked the question, how do you start choosing better patterns together if you're trying to make your toxic relationship work? If you're trying to choose better patterns together in a toxic relationship, it's like trying to put the foot on the accelerator when you still have a foot on the brake. Obviously, I'm referring to your car, right? And you have to take your foot off the brake. What that means is not only are there things in your toxic relationship that are causing you, that are still infecting you, but there are toxic things inside of each of you, okay? There are beliefs and pains and fears inside of each of you that are causing you to act toxically towards each other and you're causing yourself to allow yourself to be treating toxically, okay, to use your word, toxic. And those beliefs inside of you are the real source of the problem. So you can choose better, but you're always going to stop or you're going to pull back, as we just saw in the last question, all right, where someone was choosing to get out of the relationship, but always gets drawn back in because there's something going on. There's a virus still inside of them that is causing them to not follow through on the choices. You're asking to choose better inside the relationship, but you're not able to sustain that choice or even to make that choice to begin with. Why? Because you've got some belief inside of you that is also driving the fear inside of you, but it's what's going on inside of you that isn't you. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier about authentic you. It's not your authentic self. There are other voices, other messages that you've been taught to believe about yourself, and you're acting from those voices. You're not good enough. You're not worthy of love. Who you are doesn't matter. Don't listen to your own voice. Always, your job is to serve other people. Whatever those messages are, you're acting from those voices. And as a result, you're engaging in activities that don't serve your best interest, but also don't serve the relationship. And maybe that's why you're becoming very reactive, or that's why you're always very emotional, or maybe that's why you're shutting down, or that's why you're isolating, or that's why you're any number of things, always serving or always taking, okay? The behaviors are never the problem. The behaviors are what's happening on the surface, and you're trying to change behaviors and change patterns. Trying to change behaviors never changes behaviors long term. Hear me say that again. Trying to change behaviors never changes behaviors long term. You have to change the core beliefs that are driving those behaviors. And until you do that, you'll always rubber band back to the old behavior patterns. You have to change those core beliefs. And that's why I wrote my book, there's a hole in my love cup. It's to walk you through the process of drilling down to those core beliefs and changing those, rooting out all of those that aren't, those voices and those messages inside of you that are not authentically you. Because until those are out of you, they're still in you, and they are still the viruses that are driving the entire operating system that is you. All right, that is enough for today. Such fun questions. These are actually really nice breadth of questions. Rob, any insights?
Preach.
Huh. Yeah, we got off on a little bit of a couple of faith, God type questions today.
God makes his plan. The information's unavailable to the mortal man.
There it is. Who sings that one?
Paul Simon.
That's it. Information's unavailable to the mortal man.
It's impossible to take you seriously when you sing, Sven.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
I take it as a compliment. I take
It was.
it in a weird, non-complimentary way. Just teasing. All right, guys. Thank you so much. These have been great questions. It's always fun.
I got to read you something here. Just came in on YouTube.
Yeah, go ahead.
Angie says, "You're amazing. You literally saved my life more than once. Thank you for teaching us how to self-check and how to do the work to heal our hurts for ourselves, but also to break the chain." How about that?
All right. I love that. Thank you, Angie. I appreciate that. And it's so fun to get in here and dig in with you guys. Someone's asking if there's another one after this. There is not tonight. We did 2 counseling episodes earlier this evening, and so we only did 1 lightning round this evening. So we're going to shut this one down, you guys. Louisa says yes. So thanks, guys. And I mean it when I say really great breadth of questions, and it's always fun to take them in, and a lot of new people in tonight, which is always fun too, and fun to have a lot of the regulars in as well. Thanks so much, guys. For those of you listening in around the world and around the United States, around Canada, Europe, I know we had Australia in today. I know we had Asia represented as well. It's great to have everyone here. On behalf of my team, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by 2-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.